Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Innocent Until Proven Guilty. This will be Part 2, Chapter 2, entitled Chaotic Solutions. Upon entering Nezu's office, Shouta had to resist the urge to sigh at the sight of the principal's cheery face greeting him from behind his desk. "Good evening, Shouta-kun. Would you care for some tea?" Nezu questioned, tone chipper. He did sigh then. "No, I'd prefer if we just got this over with," he responded dryly, while crossing the room to sit down on the couch directly in front of Nezu. He placed the notebooks down on the couch next to him, and noticed the way Nezu's eyes tracked the movement eagerly. His paws twitched, ever so slightly, before he quickly clasped them together on his desk. It was rare for Nezu to show genuine interest and curiosity in anything. Even more rare for someone to be able to notice the change. Years of being a personal student to the rat gave Shouta the ability to read some of these tells. From what he has seen so far, one thing is clear. Nezu wants his paws on these notebooks. "I take it you are not here to discuss your most recent expulsion of one Mineta Minoru," Nezu stated, beady eyes still flicking to the notebooks occasionally. Shouta sighed. He really thought this would be the first class he would have with 0 expulsions, but Mineta's behavior toward the girls in the class during the training camp was atrocious. Initially, he assumed it was a first-time offense for extreme behavior from the boy. But after speaking with the class, he learned of several other incidents he had never been informed of. He had filed the paperwork and expelled the boy as soon as things were resolved after the Kamino incident. Like hell was he staying in the hero course, let alone in the same dorms as the rest of his students. The boy was given the choice to transfer to Gen Ed, should he complete courses on sexual harassment, or he could change schools completely. His family opted to move him schools, hoping for a clean slate. That black mark on his record would follow him, though, and Shouta knows he won't be able to enter any heroics courses because of it. "No, I'm sure you already know why I'm here. You're always watching anyways," Shouta grumbled, all too used to Nezu's habits of watching everything through the hidden security cameras all over the campus. He gestured to the notebooks and continued. "My students were reading through Midoriya's notebooks, without permission, I might add, and have convinced themselves that he is the traitor, and that he's giving his classmates and other heroes his analysis to the League," he explains. At the word analysis, Nezu's left ear had twitched. Another tell. With no comments from Nezu, Shouta goes on. "I glimpsed through them to see what they contained, and informed the students that this is not evidence of anyone being a traitor. I let them know I would handle this. However, knowing these kids, they are not convinced of Midoriya's innocence. Midoriya is home for the weekend. Unless a classmate reached out to him, which is unlikely, he is unaware of their suspicions." Shouta was relieved by this, honestly. It gave him time to deal with this. "How would you prefer to handle this?" he questioned. He needed advice here. That was the whole purpose of this meeting. His students are convinced of this, and without a solution, it would cause a significant rift in the class. "Well now," Nezu began. "It seems your students, excluding young Bakugo and Todoroki, of course, are in need of solid proof that Midoriya is not a traitor." If there was a doubt that Nezu had been watching, that's gone now that he had expressed knowledge of Todoroki and Bakugo seeming to be the only ones on Midoriya's side. Nezu is quiet for a moment, as a tension seeps into the room, filling the atmosphere gradually. "Do you believe he could be the traitor at all, Aizawa?" Nezu questions, the change in name showing his seriousness, yet his tone was one he could not decipher. Shouta doesn't hesitate as he responds. No. While there are numerous red flags concerning the problem child, I do not believe he could possibly be one, he states firmly. He's looking at this logically. It makes no sense. Nezu hums, eyes focused on his paws in front of him. And what red flags have you noticed from the boy? Nezu still doesn't look up, so Shouta steels himself for this long overdue conversation. I've noticed inconsistencies with the problem child, with Midoriya, since the start of the year, he begins. For starters, his self-preservation is non-existent. His pain tolerance from the start of the year was astronomically high, even when breaking several limbs in his entrance exam. At first, I had assumed he was another prideful kid with a powerful quirk that lazily chose to not train before coming to this school. However, this does not align with anything I've seen from him thus far. He started with no control over his quirk, yet has an aptitude for analyzing quirks, which is evident in those books. Not to mention, he has one of the best work ethics I've ever seen in a student. It doesn't add up. Shouta takes a deep breath and continues. He flinches at loud noises and away from touch if he can't see it coming. His relationship with Bakugo is rocky at best. While it seems to have improved over the years so far, he still is unnaturally skittish around him. I assumed it was a rivalry and nothing more, but I'm questioning my initial assessment on them. He pauses, saying these all out loud now, outside of the small talks he's had with Hizashi about this, proves just how concerning it is. He doesn't trust adults, tries to avoid getting healed by Recovery Girl at any cost, apologizes profusely for the smallest things, and the way he scans a room. Shouta trails off. He scans a room, like he's looking for safe routes at all times, contingency plans just in case, even in the classroom. I think he is much smarter than his grades reflect, but I can't understand why he would sabotage himself. He finishes. Nezu had remained silent the whole time, simply observing Shouta as he worked through his thought process on all this. There was a glint in his eye, recognizable from the times he was concocting a meticulous plan. That look never failed to put him on edge, sending chills down his spine. After a long moment, Nezu takes a sip of the tea that Shouta hadn't even noticed before. Well, I believe I may have a solution. Nezu starts cryptically. What? Shouta grinds out impatiently. For starters, we will conduct an interrogation of Midoriya Izuku in order to prove his innocence. Nezu says cheerfully, like he isn't talking about questioning one of their own students. We will have Detective Tsukauchi to assist, as you know his quirk would be quite useful to confirming what is and is not the truth. He adds on. Okay, that's likely going to be a bit tough on Midoriya. But it's a foolproof way of ensuring he isn't betraying his classmates, and the students would absolutely believe them, should he be questioned officially. But Nezu isn't done. And given the concerns you've raised over the boy, we will also administer a truth serum. He will be forced to respond truthfully to any and all questions asked, and the detective will be there as further confirmation, Nezu states, chipper as ever. What? Shouta pauses for a second, dumbstruck, because there is no way in hell this is an option here. You want to question a student using truth serum. That can't be legal, Nezu. Shouta growls out, standing abruptly. He just manages to resist activating his quirk. That's one line he won't ever cross with Nezu. On the contrary, Shouta-kun, the Commission will surely allow it, given the circumstances. I assure you, it would be perfectly legal. Nezu pauses. Although, We would need the approval of a parental figure or guardian to proceed. We will need to ask Mrs. Midoriya if she consents." "No sane parent would agree to this," Shouta retorted easily. "Midoriya speaks highly of his mother. If she is anything like he says, there is no way she would ever agree." This realization allows the tension in his shoulders to lessen just slightly as he finally returns to his seat. "Perhaps not, but we shall see," Nezu states cryptically. He's planning something here, but Shouta knows better than to ask. He would only get puzzles and workaround answers in response, nothing to actually aid him in figuring this out. "Who is going to contact his mother, since you seem so adamant on trying this?" Shouta asked, voice quiet in resignation that he himself will be unable to stop this. "I shall handle that. Do not worry, Shouta-kun. The boy is headed home to be with his mother this weekend, as you have mentioned, and if I am not mistaken, All Might has accompanied him home this evening. He should still be there now," Nezu cheerily supplied as he pulled out his phone. Shouta sat still on the couch, in disbelief, as Nezu called Yagi to explain the situation. Unsurprisingly, Yagi denied any possibility of the boy being a traitor, and refused to accept any disagreement on the issue. Nezu calmed the man by explaining that this is just to reassure his classmates. Yagi appeared to sober at that, expressing his deep disappointment in the students for thinking this way. After a long conversation that he was forced to listen to, Yagi finally agreed to at least ask Mrs. Midoriya. Apparently, he had just dropped the boy off a few minutes before Nezu called, so he was still in the area. It was a surprise that Yagi agreed, but truthfully, like Shouta, he had to have assumed that Midoriya's mother would never agree anyway. With a promise from Yagi that he would call back with an answer, Nezu had ended the call and focused his attention back on Shouta. "Well, Shouta-kun, I don't want to keep you longer than necessary. I will let you know once I hear back from All Might, and depending on the response, that will determine our next steps here." Nezu paused, eyeing the notebooks once more. "Please leave the notebooks here with me for further review. We wouldn't want your students getting their hands on another student's property again. Now would we?" He bristled slightly at the reminder of his students' invasion of privacy. Still satisfied with his punishment for Uraraka, he resolved himself to teach a lesson soon on the ethical responsibility of respecting the privacy of others, so the rest of the class will learn something from this as well. Standing, he gathers the notebooks up and begrudgingly sets them on Nezu's desk. He feels this will lead to nothing but headaches for him. If the analysis in them is as good as it appeared while he had skimmed them earlier, Nezu is going to demand to get his claws into Midoriya. He shudders at the thought of him becoming the rat's personal student. No way in hell. Shouta turns to leave, more than ready to sleep for a year, until he is stopped once more. "Shouta-kun," Nezu calls, quieter than usual. "I do hope you find the answers you were looking for. Should Mrs. Midoriya agree, of course." Before he could respond, Nezu had opened one of the notebooks to begin reading. A clear dismissal. Leaving the room, the door began to close behind him as he hears the sound of quiet chuckles and the frantic turning of pages. Pinching the bridge of his nose, he sighs. This is going to be hell. Later that evening, after a quiet dinner with his husband, Shouta finally is settling into bed to get some sleep. "You didn't talk much during dinner tonight. Want to talk about what's bothering you?" Hizashi asked softly from next to him. He was laying sideways on his pillow, with a few stray hairs falling into his face. He reached out and brushed them out of the way softly. Hizashi was always able to read him like a book. He never used to understand how, but After being together for so long, he realized it just comes with the territory when you love someone. Sighing and keeping his hand in Hizashi's hair, Shouta tells him everything that happened that day. From his students to the meeting with Nezu, to his concerns about Midoriya, most of which Hizashi had heard before. He always took him seriously when he had concerns about a student and resolved himself to keeping an eye on the problem child in his class as well. Shouta loved how understanding Hizashi was, but even he was struggling to understand how, 1, the students could think this in the first place, and 2, why Nezu would be pushing to use a truth serum. "Zashi, don't worry. I highly doubt his mother would agree to it," he reassured, still running his hand through Hizashi's hair. It always calmed him down and helped him relax. Having his hair up all day for his costume was a lot on his scalp, so his favorite part of the day is always when he can let his hair down at home, or on days off. "Maybe, Sho, but we've never even met the little listener's mom, so how can we know for sure?" Hizashi whispers, worrying his bottom lip between his teeth. "Midoriya speaks highly of her. We have no reason to think she would agree to this. Let's not worry until we hear something," he whispers back, keeping his voice low and soothing. Granted, in the back of his mind, a voice Shouta promptly ignores, wonders why Nezu would resort to asking Mrs. Midoriya if he had any doubt she would agree. Shaking himself of that thought, Shouta presses a kiss to Hizashi's forehead and lays back down, getting comfortable. "Get some sleep. It's been a long day, and we'll know more tomorrow, I'm sure," he assures. Hizashi hums and moves to settle his arms around Shota's waist, head pillowing on his shoulder. "Good night, love," Hizashi whispers fondly. Shouta goes to respond when he hears his phone buzz. Grumbling, he shifts himself and Hizashi so he can reach it from his side table. He groans as he sees it's a text from Nezu. "Mrs. Midoriya has agreed to the interrogation. We will discuss further details in the morning." Well, fuck. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 2 of Innocent Until Proven Guilty. Chapter 3 will be up next. As the writer for this fic, I've been so grateful to see some of the responses you all have had so far, some of the reactions you've had, especially to the first chapter, since that one's been posted on here already. But I'd love to continue to see that. A huge thank you to those of you who were, interested enough in the first chapter that I posted that you wanted to go and check out the rest of the fic that's already available on AO3. So I really appreciate some of the support I've seen there. I did see some of the comments some of you made, and that really meant a lot to see those as well. So drop those comments below. Let me know what you're thinking of everything so far. Again, Chapter 3 will be up next. And as always, thank you all so much for listening.